production delayed, comic book distribution fragmented, and TV shows resorting to watered down at-home versions, COVID-19 has broken the entertainment industry. Good afternoon, evening, or morning, whatever you happen to celebrate. My name is Will Romine of Prominent Media, and I'm your moderator. Joining us today are three cartoonists who haven't let the pandemic slow them down. Even before the world went on lockdown, these guys leveraged their mastery of four-panel storytelling to provide weekly content to an entertainment-starved world. Today, we have Alan Truong of The Missing Digit. He is the writer, artist, and creator of this comic strip that proves that anthropomorphic birds are really no different than you or me. Next up, we have J.R. Gervais of Young Cannibals. The way he did, it's a hard strip to describe, but I think he sums it up pretty well. It's imagine if Charlie Brown got kicked in the peanuts. And finally, we have Eddie DeAngelini of Collectors. Collectors is a story of a love triangle between a man, his wife, and his comic book collection. So let's start out, fellas. How have you been spending your quarantine time?
My life really hasn't changed at all during all of this. Not really, anyway. My day job was considered essential service, so I'm still working every single day. The only thing that really changed for me was that I wasn't getting any exercise, and it started affecting me mentally and stuff. So I started seeing visions or something. But so I've been what I've been doing the last couple months is I've been getting up real early, like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and going for a walk, and that's been a heck of a lot of fun because I'd be the only one out on the streets because it'd be deserted, and I was always like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and going for a walk, and that's been a heck of a lot of fun because I'd be the only one out on the streets because it'd be deserted, and I was always.
Our moderator should be sure to light a candle. I think you're doing some business there.
Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
How about you, Alan? Why don't you tell us what's going on? What's your pandemic life been like?
Sure, why not? Been very busy, not getting haircuts, feeling increasingly isolated, and of course, drinking heavily. So basically the same thing that any cartoonist is always like. Not that much has changed for me other than the fact that, now it's a little bit like, scary to get Uber Eats. So no, I guess cartoonists are kind of naturally built for quarantine life.
Yeah, I mean, people weren't coming within 6 feet of you even before this hit.
This is true.
How about you, Eddie? What have you been up to?
Besides being a cartoon, I am also a comic shop owner. So I had to deal with the shop being closed and kind of going in more than usual to try to sell whatever I could online to try to keep money coming in. With all that going on, I still managed to find some time to do some creative output and get some more strips up and do a bunch of new content. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I even managed to set up Kickstarter for the newest Collector's print comic. So if anything, I was busier than usual. While most people were sitting at home getting drunk, Alan, and just doing much of nothing, which I was very jealous of.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like you guys were like Burgess Meredith in the Twilight Zone, where you suddenly had all your books and you had all the time in the world to do whatever you wanted. Sounds like in this case, the quarantine, if we're going to extend this metaphor, what was your broken glasses?
Well, I mean, I did find time to find an up-and-coming fighter out in Philadelphia, train him to fight the heavyweight champion of the world, so to extend that Burgess Meredith metaphor. No one probably gets that. We should edit this part out.
No, it's gold. Leave it.
Okay, we should have done Burgess Meredith was the Penguin too. We should have done Penguin. Oh, I missed the prime opportunity miss.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I mean, this has really been a 1-2 punch for a lot of us. You guys are all in the laughter business. Your output lifts people's spirits. But we're in an inherently unfunny time in our country's history. How has this influenced your work?
Should I go again?
Yeah.
Please.
Go for
Age
it.
before beauty. Do it.
I'm both though. So, actually, for me, when everybody was starting to stay at home, I thought to myself that, this is a good opportunity. Well, I mean, there were two reasons. I thought it was a good opportunity just to put out as much content as possible. So normally I would produce 2 comic strips a week, and I would have a hard time just doing that before the pandemic hit. But once everybody was staying at home, I decided I wanted to, crank out as much content.
I think JR had a stroke.
Yeah. That'd be a terrible face to die with.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the one he was living with wasn't much better either.
Ooh.
Okay, there we go.
There we
Can
go.
you guys
You're back,
hear me
JR.
now? Okay.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, it's like I just started making as much content as possible, and I was doubling the output at least. So and in that process of working on so much content, I actually found it a lot easier to create stuff. Mostly because I just gave myself permission to not be funny or not be good or anything, which some people would argue is like you never were funny or good. But
Success.
Wow.
thank you.
Stealing our jokes here.
Yeah. But I just really focused in also like on the different types of humor that some of the characters would do. Like one character, she likes to tell really bad jokes, dad jokes or puns. So I just really zoned in on that. And also, like coffee, I focused in on coffee, the adult sippy cup, I just really focused in on things like that. So I just really got better and honed in a little bit more on what the comic strip really was all about.
So has the Black Lives Matter movement and the associated demonstrations found their way into your work, or do you typically keep your stories in a bubble insulated from the outside world?
Can I answer that one?
Yes, of course, Eddie.
Okay, so for those who don't know, during the protests in Santa Monica, which ended up in riots and looting, my shop Heidi Ho Comics was looted, and with damage and theft and all of that. So how is it affected? I was directly affected, but if anyone's seen the pictures of the boards when we boarded up our shop afterwards, we let it be known that we wholeheartedly support the message of BLM and the message to the protesters, not necessarily the looters, but regardless of the fact that we were in the middle of some heavy craziness, we are still very much with the message. So
Yeah, that deserves a round of applause for sure.
So
Yeah.
how has BLM affected your daily work life? I've got quite the answer, as you know.
Yeah.
I'll add one more thing. If my shop being looted and damaged plays a small part in things hopefully really, really changing within this country, then you know what? That's a small price to pay. I'm all for it.
Of
No,
course.
I think we're all like, without presuming anything, the four of us, or at least like, probably most people in the industry, because, we are cartoonists, we are comic book lovers who worship heroes who do the right thing. We're probably all on the same side of this. And I think that, just seeing what's going on in the news, seeing people like Eddie, like, even in the face of, that kind of vandalism, still being on the right side of this issue here, it certainly affected me. Like where at this time when this video is actually going out to the masses here, I may or may not be done with this series, but I'm in the middle of a series of comic strips that I'm calling the Black Collection, that I'm just like, taking my best shot at, like, putting out a message out there that, like, be a little bit more poignant than the usual dick and fart jokes. That's not to say that there isn't some of that going on, of course, but it really has inspired me to, like, kind of rip from the headlines a little bit and see, in our own little funny comic strip way, see what we can do to maybe enlighten some minds and, change some ideals. I don't know. We'll see.
Or maybe also just what we do can offer just a momentary escape to help people have a laugh, center themselves, and kind of get themselves situated before they have to go back out there and, you know, take on that world and make a stand or anything like that. So if we can do at least that, then I suppose that that's a job well done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all revere comic books. We've all died a little bit when someone breaches the bag and board with their grubby fingers or bends a binding in a way that it ought not be bent. But in the end, no matter how limited the edition or finite the print run, these are just things. The heroes and the funny pages stand for the same ideals that we should defend in our flesh and blood world.
Yeah.
Now let's bring it back to the comics themselves. You've all been writing your comics for over a decade apiece. For those of you keeping score at home, that's 2 confederacies long at least. So, gentlemen, your statues are in the mail. Now, after writing the comic for so long, how do you reward your long-term fans while keeping things fresh for the new ones? Alan, we'll start with you. You recently became a father. Has parenthood softened the missing digit?
Shameless plug for the cutest baby in the world. Thank you. She's asleep right now, or I'd parade her out. Yeah, no, you know what? I would actually say, if anything, fatherhood has hardened me. That sounded wrong. No, it's really, I don't think it's taken away any of the edge. It's funny because I remember getting a question similar to this 2 years ago when we did a panel at Comic-Con. And, you know, asking about, you know, my type of humor and, you know, would you be doing these kind of jokes if you had a daughter or son or something? And I said, I absolutely would. And the truth is, I absolutely, like, you know, am still. If anything, I think even dialing it up, not necessarily to be more crass or obscene, but to be more clever and funny, because I think one day she's going to grow up and it would be cool if she knew that her dad didn't just make a bunch of lame dad jokes all the time. And maybe he did some wicked, sweet dick and fart jokes. And, you know, I'm thinking more and more about the legacy I leave behind, believe it or not, with my work. And it would be great to leave behind a pretty strong archive to show her that her dad did something pretty cool back in the day.
Well, and legacy is what it's all about. I mean, I'm just happy to hear that in the Truong household, you're skipping past Dick and Jane and going straight to Dick and Fart.
There you go.
Yeah. How about you, Eddie? How do you keep the the hardcore fans engaged and bring in the new ones?
Well, you just got to create good content. You got to create something that you are fully happy with, because if you're fully happy with it, it's going to show. And the people that read your strip, whether they're old or new, it's going to show to them as well. So I think just being consistent with your quality and just creating good content and never stopping is the way to do it. And that's probably the toughest thing, because how do you stay fresh to be able to keep on doing good content after, you know, however many years you're doing it? Honestly, I don't have an answer to that. I think everybody has a different answer for that. I just keep plodding ahead and hoping that I'm continuing to do my best work by just putting as the best that I have into it. And hopefully people respond, and thankfully they have. And one of the ways I like to bring in some new people is what I did just recently is Kickstarter is great for that. Kickstarter is great for marketing and bringing in new fans. I've done 3 Kickstarters during the course of my comic strip. And each time I've done it, I've had new fans that have come from outside my sphere that I've built of the older fans. So just doing whatever, it's literally like just one small step after another. You gain a fan here, you gain a fan there, you do a show here, you gain a fan over there, and you just keep going and keep going.
JR, going on that same vein, you know, Stan Lee always said that every comic is somebody's first comic. And, you know, when you've been doing a strip for multiple years, there's a hazard of getting bogged down in continuity and feeling that that you don't really need to explain the characters, that, you know, that your audience is starting from a much higher level of familiarity than maybe they are. So how do you, in the limited space of the comic strip, make sure that that first time readers get what's going on?
Well, I've been doing the comics for Young Cannibals for about almost 14 years now, and actually this weekend I'm going to be posting my 1100th comic strip. So yay! Yeah, a lot of work. So so basically, I just completely ignore continuity. I think continuity was and is a good thing for some things, but it's also bogged down the comic book industry, I think, a little bit. And comic strips kind of don't really have that burden on them. So I do treat every comic strip as if it's somebody's first experience to it. And I try to make sure that the characters all operate within a certain archetype, but also try to expand their horizons as well. To answer the original question, I just really work hard at trying to tell funny jokes, and I'll steal from people if I have to. I've stolen from Alan and from Eddie here multiple occasions. So
Which one did you steal from me?
Okay, we got a record here. Everyone heard that. Everyone heard that.
No, I don't care. I'm flattered. I just wanted to know which one you stole.
Oh, it was some of your comic book stuff from last year where you were talking about, it was like mostly the colors and stuff. I was like, this would be particularly useful for this one strip that I was doing where it was very comic book related, and I borrowed all the colors, and I was it's like comic book shop type of information in there. So
you know what, to kind of riff on that question though too, I think like all three of us.
All right. Well, I've stolen from you as well, so we're even.
I'll have my lawyer reach out to you then. Sorry, Alan, you were saying?
No. I was just saying that, like, you know, not to presume, like, you know, between all three of us, but I've read all of our work, like, you know, big fan. And I think, like, you know, one thing that's special about all three of these strips too is just the characters, how well drawn out they are as far as, like, you know, who they are, like, you know, and there's continuity in that too, where I think, like, you know, myself, I'm a big fan of Easter eggs. I like, you know, throwing a little, like, you know, wink and a nod to readers sometimes. And, you know, a lot of times, just like someone who's watched every single movie in the MCU, Endgame was just chock full of moment after moment that, to the newcomer, great. To the true blue fan, holy cow, man, that was satisfying. So, like, you know, just like little nods, I think, or little callbacks to this storyline or that strip, or, you know, whenever Frank the Ninja Hamster shows up, Young Cannibals. Thank you. Like, you know, just things like that, I think, are pretty rewarding for the readers too. I know me personally, I try to include little Easter eggs that if anyone's looking close enough, you know, hidden headlines in the newspaper they're reading, or, you know, stolen character designs, Young Cannibals, Calvin Hobbes, collectors. But yeah, like, you know, if I think it also promotes, like, you know, more reading too, to go back into the archive. Oh, Garfield, what do you mean? What? Yeah, so.
Yeah, speaking of Endgame, there's actually a really cool Easter egg that I'm surprised no one's talking about. So, you know, that that the midpoint of the battle, before everyone comes in at the portal, you see Captain America there, and you know how he puts his hand up and Thor's hammer comes to him. Well, there were actually multiple movies before that had characters by the name of Captain America and Thor. You see, it takes an eagle eye fan like me to spot that.
So editing will be done to this, yes? Like 2 hours talking about how great Endgame is. So
yeah,
man. Yeah.
But okay, so I think we're coming to the end, but it looks like yeah, there's a line forming. This looks like a pretty long line for Q&A. Let's try to knock through a few of these. Let's you know, your fans have come to see you. They want to know more about you, and this may be their only chance to get to talk to their hero. So, Miss, okay, I like the costume. Go ahead.
I was going to ask Elizabeth's shoe question, but it's already been asked. And I wonder if you visited with Elizabeth Shue while she's here at Comic-Con as well. But since that question also was taken, I wonder, Ralph, if you know that they still read The Outsiders in middle school. And so my daughter is a massive fan of yours also, and she watches 80s films with me all the time. She thinks you're so mean, Billy, if I may call you that.
You may call me that.
So,
because Johnny's sitting right next to you.
okay, anyway, anytime I need her to do anything, all I have to do is refer back to The Outsiders, clean her room. She says no, and I say, do it for Johnny, and she'll clean her room. So, so my question is, have you guys seen or will see Elizabeth Shue while you're at Comic-Con?
Well, thank you for asking that. Yes, by all means, you can buy my newest book. It is available online at my website, collectorscomic.com, and you can buy the 5th Collectors Annual right there online. Thank you for asking. I hope you do enjoy it, and I look for your order. Thank you.
Man, there's nothing like a Hall H audience, let me tell you.
Oh man.
Oh, such great questions.
We're making dreams come true here.
I think we got time for a couple more. Okay, you right there. You okay?
Hi, my name's Emily. I'm a huge fan. I had a question about what was your favorite props, Jensen, Misha, and Jared, like throughout the show. And yeah, I really love you guys.
That's a very interesting question, and I want to thank you for asking that. But before I actually answer it, I just want to say we all are artists and stuff, but that doesn't mean we're like super special or anything like that. Not really. Personally speaking, I'm a simple man with simple taste. I drink Tabasco sauce straight out of the bottle. I like pineapple on my pizza, and I like the cool jams of R. Kelly. Mm-hmm. So basically, we're no different from anybody else. So I hope that answered your question. And
that's right.
Stay hydrated.
Pants on 2 legs at a time.
Yeah. Who's next in line? Can somebody get him a microphone?
So my question is, so you're working on a couple of dicks right now, or at least what I hope will stay the title.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the first movie you've ever directed and not written yourself. And
yes.
I'm wondering, what's the story behind that? And I'm hoping this isn't, the beginning of a trend, because, you write better than anybody else out there.
Yeah. Very sweet, thank you.
Yes, that's a very, very good question. Let me answer it with something I want to talk about. Basically, I think that my work has really evolved recently, just because there's so much going on in the world. A lot more material being ripped from the headlines, and just can't help but get mixed in with what's going on in the world. So yeah, that's where I find my humor. Thank you very much for that question. I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay. I think we have time for one more question. Okay. Last is the last one. So make it a good one. Okay, go ahead.
So first of all, thank you for taking me off C-lister list, even though you killed me off. Riddle me this: what is Batman's greatest strength / weakness? What would you say that would be?
Whoa, big fella, put your shirt down. Great costume, but there are kids around here. Okay.
Sir, I do believe that you could beat the Hulk in a fight. Yes, I do.
I don't really think you should shave your head like me. I mean, I know you might admire me and stuff, but only certain people can pull off this look. So me, Charlie Brown, that's about it.
And I think Charlie Brown needs the zigzag on his shirt to really pull it off.
Good grief.
Okay, well, San Diego, you've been a great audience. Just remember to file on out in an orderly fashion, make room for the next panel. But actually, I think we do have one more surprise for you. I believe Alan is offering something to our loyal fans here at San Diego. Alan, can you enlighten us?
Yes, absolutely. So because we can't really hand out swag right now, and I don't think anyone's looking for a virtual hug, we do happen to offer merchandise on themissingdigit.com. So starting tomorrow, I believe this is going to be July 22nd, July 23rd, everything on the Missing Digit website, 15% off across the board. Have at it. Enjoy a shirt just like this.
Wow.
Or many others. So
Okay.
cover up them nips. Get a shirt.
Well said, and a great capper to this panel. Thank you all, gentlemen. Thank you for coming in, and thank you, San Diego.
Yeah, see you
Cheers.
next year. Woo!
And